Welcome to Tea with Tanya. I'm your host, Tanya Ambrose, an average millennial navigating life as a maternal health professional, nonprofit founder, and grad student. Join me in the tea tasting room where we spill the tea on finding balance and promoting positive living while doing it all. Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of Tea with Tanya, transforming every aspect. I am your host and I am joined by someone very special. You know, I said about all my guests anyway, so I guess he is special to me. But we're going to be talking about thriving by embracing exercise. And the reason why we're talking about this, because if you've been listening to this podcast the last year or so, I've been trying to be on my health and wellness journey. I've fallen off. And I met this individual a few months ago in a gym. He was helping me with some exercises. He was being crazy because exercises were very hard for me. Anyway, nevertheless, since January, I decided I was going to take my health and wellness much more seriously because I'm trying to get snatched. I'm trying to get my emotions and my mental health together because the beginning of this year didn't really start how I wanted it to start. But since then, I found a trainer who's not only my trainer, but sometimes my therapist, even though I have my own therapist. But nevertheless, let's welcome Joshua here to our tea tasting room.
Tea tasting room. That's exquisite. Like, is there a certain way I'm supposed to
talk?
Yeah, talk.
No.
It's a tea tasting room.
Be yourself. We spill the tea. We like the tea. We're nosy people here in Tea with Tanya. So just tell us about yourself and what you do.
I'm Joshua. I'm a personal trainer. I do have my own facility. Just kind of like, you explained, to a certain extent, a lot of what I do personal training wise is intentional. I'm kind of working on my own modality of personal training that is a lot more inclusive of the other parts of the body or the mind or the soul as you speak about it. So it is a bit more than just, one set, two set, one rep, two rep, or, squat, press. I try to engage with my clients in terms of conversation and not just like, over talking or not really getting through the workout and the premise of that, but allowing them to express themselves and, really contract and release, when it comes to muscles, but also the mind. So there's a lot more to it than that, but that is basically the direction that I'm headed when it comes to everything that I'm doing with personal training. So you know this, but at my facility, I've tried to incorporate a lot of the other senses, whether it's sight, smell, outside of just the tactile, feel of sweating or contracting your muscles, things of the sort. So yeah, it's just I really try to appeal to the entire sensory system and just create a theme based on the person's goals or where they are in their life and what exactly they're looking for. Because people give a surface level explanation as to why they want to work out and look the way they want to look. But there's a lot more to it than just that. Oftentimes, in my position, I found people that are on the surface level that'll tell you, yeah, I want to get in shape. But on the other side, it's kind of like, yeah. On the other side, it's kind of like, I'm piecing myself back together type shit. So, yeah, that's it's a little bit about me and what I do. But you know what? I'm noticing something.
What?
As we're live right now, I didn't really tell you all about me. I told you about what I do.
Exactly.
So, all right.
I mean, we nosy. We need to know more about you.
Yeah. But my journey to health and fitness, it really, if I'm going to be honest, and maybe this is something that, you could elaborate on another episode or whatever, but my purpose found me. It wasn't necessarily like I was going through a multiple choice, what career I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. It found me in the essence of me, my relation to fitness. I was never like the star kid athlete growing up. Athletics came on the later side of my...
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
No, I was a chunky kid that loved to play video games. Absolutely. 100%. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like that's not my background, even though a lot of people will assume that as they see me today. So it kind of found me in the essence of I began to work out in my early teenage years in relation to sports. Uh-huh. So I started playing sports, and then of course a part of playing sports is you work out, you got to do conditioning. Uh-huh. And so came to find that I enjoyed the conditioning part more than the sport. You know what I mean? And a part of that is just how I'm set up, emotionally, personally. I can be a very reclusive person at times. I do like spending time to myself. So team sports and doing things as a team, as a unit with people that, it's not like I got to choose everybody that I played with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like, you know what I mean? And what they were on at the time is not necessarily what I was on. And so eventually, I started to realize like, man, what am I really getting from this? I did enjoy the camaraderie with other people, but, other times it's kind of like, we don't have the same interests outside of the objective of, winning. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, I started to realize like, what I really like about this is the conditioning. And once, went through my senior year, I didn't play any sports from that point on, but I still kept up the conditioning and I would work out, run and all this stuff. And so I'm always in the gym and things of the sort. And then lo and behold, people in my circle or people that they would see me consistently, they would be like, yo, are you a trainer? Do you train? Or let me work out with you. That's how I started. Let's work out. And I'm like, let you into my private space? What do you mean? Like I'm in my head the whole time I'm working out. The last thing I want to do is be concerned about somebody else keeping up or what weight they want to do and all this other type of stuff. So because the invite would be so close, they wanted to work out with me. And I just couldn't grasp that concept at the time because that was a very private, personal space where I was flowing through things, ideas, thoughts, emotions, feelings, finding my identity. And so eventually I looked at it from the perspective of like personal training, being a personal trainer, which created a level of distance, but also consciousness to where, okay, I can be attentive to another person with the intention of helping them. It's not about me. It's not about what I want to do or how I need to feel in the moment. You know what I mean? We could make it about them. You know what I mean? And so to this day, it's still a differential thing for me between somebody working out with me or me training them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but it's like, that's kind of how I found my niche, because eventually when I did start a personal training, the version of me that I was working on, I started to get a mirror or a reflection from my clients.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Because we're having conversation and it's like, yo, you really know what you're doing. Or, I'd have had other trainers and I didn't get the results. Or, I enjoy being in that space with you. You know what I mean? Because at the same time, while I'm pushing myself, challenging myself, I am a human being, so I'm having my own thoughts and emotions, or, you're just an hour of my day.
Right.
So it's not like I just come here and just go into this robot mode. You know what I mean? So it will be nice. And it's the same. It's like that in a lot of, customer service, quote unquote, in, jobs, like whether it's, a barber or, a stylist or, where you're in that close, intimate space with that person, whether it's 15, 20, 30 minutes or an hour. And it's a lot easier to relax and be at ease or enjoy the experience when you have something to talk about, or they give you the space to be human. You know what I mean? And so that's where that kind of started to me. That I was like, oh, I think I like this. And then I'm very intentional about who I train, how I train. And eventually that came, to a point where it's like, now I started developing the idea of getting my own facility and creating my own brand, because there were things in commercial gyms or other gyms that I didn't agree with. I didn't want to train everybody. You know what I mean? Everybody don't have the intentions of training for training and things of the sort. So, yeah. And it became expansive, but it's at this point, I had a broad range of, who I considered myself to be and what my interests were and how I wanted to live my life before I started training. And I didn't want it to become encapsulated into just training. So like, my life is probably fitness wise, maybe 20-25% of my thought process. I don't really think about fitness.
Really?
All day, every day. No, not in the way that the industry would look at it. No.
Really? Oh, that's...
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, but I had to integrate my other interests into fitness, because if this was how I'm going to make my living, then I want to do it my way and my brand and with my own modality. So I bring those other things with me. So that in our sessions, we talk about a lot. You know what I mean? Whether it's like social, political things or mental health.
Yes,
or,
you were talking
so,
that.
Yeah. Oh, so see.
Here we go. Well, I'm trying to figure out when you say that you are intentional with who you train with or
Absolutely.
who you, I guess, bring on as a client. What does that mean? Why? Like
that means that I vet people.
Oh, so you're vetting me?
I vetted you. You would have never made it into, you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. Because I have to see, you know what I mean? Yeah, you got to talk. You first you have to talk, you know what I mean? Then I have to see what your goals are, what your intentions are. And then I have to see it as it plays out into a session. And so it's just kind of like,
So I'm just your ideal client, is what you're telling me. Because I be complaining every time I come here.
You complain?
Yeah, and then comply.
Everybody complain and comply. I mean, it's not easy. You know what I mean? It's easy, and that's another thing you have to. It's easy. That's like if I was a chemist teacher and I expect somebody to come into my class and pass with flying colors. Like, that happens, but that can't necessarily be my expectation because you don't view what I do and what I know from the same perspective. Like, you coming to me for help. Like, help me. You know what I'm saying? This is something I've been doing for, 10, 15 years. So, so it's just kind of like, I do, but because everybody don't have the same intentionality, you know what I mean? Because when I invest in my clients, I invest like, it's a part of my brand, my dream, my vision, the people I train, because I get the feedback from you guys. You know what I'm saying? Y'all let me know what I feel like I could do better on every level. Like when I think about something as simple as, the facility or the brand, it's a reflection of my desires, wants and needs and interests, but it's also a reflection of my clients.
I hear that. For me, I grew up in a sporting family.
Yeah.
I grew up playing almost all the sports you can think of. Yeah. So when I think back, I'm very old now. When I think back to my high school days, I was active. I was always playing, whether it's music or sports, we were doing something after school. And I think then I was living my best life because, of course, I didn't have much responsibility besides waking up, going to school, coming home, I wasn't thinking about bills or anything. But then I moved to this country almost 15 years ago. And the very first year I came to the United States, like that was the last time I left Antigua in 2009 was the last time I did any sort of sports or anything. Yeah. So I came here and I didn't really get fat, but I became lazy. When I went back home, I couldn't even play basketball or netball the way I used to because I got Americanized. So that's why for me, it's been harder for me to get into working out because like you said, you became in love with the idea of conditioning versus just the actual sports. But that was me. So I would always start and stop working out because I'm like, I didn't know what my goals were as it related to working out. For me, it was more so, you're an athlete, you grew up in a sporting family, XYZ. So that was just the reason behind, you should be active. I shouldn't be fighting for air when I'm climbing a flight or two of stairs. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like I said, last year I decided that, what, I needed to get rid of this tummy that I have. I needed to get my legs toned because, again, as an athlete, I always admired my legs. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now I'm just like, you're giving fat turkey.
Not fat turkey.
Or like a turkey leg,
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
But no, so then when I started the gym and I saw you and you were telling us XYZ, you were very knowledgeable. I will say he is very knowledgeable when it comes to anything fitness related and just from a mental health standpoint, emotional health standpoint. So why? Because I feel like I look forward to working out with you. Let me see. Do I? Like, it's the 1 hour out of my day that my mind is not racing because my brain goes like a mile per second at this point. Like it thinks about so many different things at the same time. So whenever I walk into this gym, I'm like, okay, I'm going to complain for a little bit because that's who I am, but I'm going to comply. But I'm realizing that it's not just about the physical aspect of working out, it's more so about the mental and emotional well-being. So how can you explain to the listeners, why is it important? How can we incorporate like working out or exercise into our daily life for us to improve our well-being then? Because I think some of us, I want to be snatched. Like I be telling you all the time, but still for me now, it's more about my mental and emotional health. So how important is working out or being physical or being,
like how important it is?
Yeah, like for our well-being. Because I don't think we realize that, it's like, mental.
We live in an information age, where we got phones, televisions, whether you're working from home or you work wherever you work at, you're in front of a, laptop, desktop, there's probably a TV there too. And like I said, your phone's there. So to a certain extent, I guess I could leave it to you. You know what I mean? How do you want me to answer this question? Because I can give you the cliche, list that everybody
we don't do cliche.
Already. Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of like, I can just kind of
say you, be you.
Yeah.
So tell us. We ain't doing no cliche.
If I'm gonna be honest, right? Most people kind of got the idea like, you need to, work out. Number one, to help with your heart health, to help with whatever you may have, as a disposition biologically. You know what I mean? Just hereditary. You know what I mean? So. And then, of course, blood flow to the brain, the release of hormones and endorphins and dopamine, you know what I mean, boosting your mood and, increasing the quality of your sleep and your mobility and fitness. And I'm not saying this stuff to downplay it. It's just that most people have heard this, you know what I mean, to a certain extent. But to me, to kind of put a little bit more context on that, and you know me, I'm a philosophical person.
We know. Well, I know.
So, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, as I answer that question as an expert, you know what I mean? To a certain extent, on a character level, the why matters. But as an expert, the why don't matter. It's kind of like, and I'm going to say this.
Tell me, okay.
It's kind of like when you asking somebody why they go to church. It matters that they showed up. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like people go to church for plenty of reasons. You know what I'm saying? Not all of them are good, but it's like to the pastor, he's looking at it like, yo, come as you are. I'm not about to crush you and ask you why you came here, but I have you know what I mean? I have a connection. I got to connect you to the message or, deliverance or, whatever, religious, denomination you are. I need to connect you to this source of God, basically.
All right.
And it's kind of like, so I don't really go through the Rolodex of like telling somebody, why fitness is important, because most people have heard it, but it's also kind of like whatever, it just matters that it's important to you in whatever form, fashion that may be. So you may be like, yo, I looked in the mirror today and you know what I mean? I ain't like what I saw. Or you may be like, yo, I just need to get something together or I need to accomplish something just to feel in control of my life. Or it may be that, I walk around with a lot of tension that's, sourced emotionally, but coming to work out feels like a release to me. I feel like it's a form of catharsis where I'm able to release something. You know what I mean? It like it's so many it's a plethora of reasons why fitness is important, but I don't like to condense it to, a narrow few because that could keep people from being drawn into it. Does that make sense? Because they may feel like, well, nah, I ain't, you know what I mean? It ain't that serious. Like, you know what I mean? But you don't know what it is until you in it. So with that being said, though, it is important, we are going to go down a Rolodex. But confidence on probably be one of my key reasons why I would say it's important. Of course, to be aesthetically pleasing, it boosts your esteem, it boosts your confidence, but also to give you a sense that you are able to take on a task, accomplish it, and get better at it. You know what I mean? In a world where we don't really have control over a lot of things that we should or we would like to. This is something that you could start, you know what I mean? And feel like you are making a change or a difference in your life actively. And every day you get better at it. Literally, as long as you stay consistent. So it can create a template or a platform for you to take on a lot of other things in your life. You know what I mean? I know that's a broad philosophical answer. I don't think people are expecting that. You know what I'm saying?
It's you.
But
So
it's just kind of like, yeah.
I think for me, yesterday we worked out, and I think you were trying to kill me, low key, because you started adding more weights. I don't know who told you I was there in my growth as a gym girly, but I remember after the workout, I went home and I was recording an Instagram story talking about me losing sleep. Actually, sleep and I going through a divorce. Mm-hmm. But the premise of that story was to talk about, I was trying to give gratitude to people who were donating to my nonprofit. But I was like, you know what? I'm operating off of 2 hours of sleep.
I'm going to cut you off real quick because even when you said that to me in person, because if you need to be responsible to your listeners, she just said that Sleep and her are going through a divorce. And I just wanted to follow that up with means eventually if you and Sleep are going through a divorce, you and your brain are also going to go through a divorce. Because that is, one of the number one key indicators of Alzheimer's and dementia.
So that's what I was getting at. So a person responded to my, she was like, you set yourself up for dementia. I was like, well, girl, I'm trying to sleep more, but I can't help it. So I wanted to ask you, like, how does working out? Because last night was the first time in a long time, my friends, that I actually slept for more than 5 hours. So I had a really good workout yesterday. I was actually compliant. I wasn't really complaining. But again, how does working out impact or promote any sort of longevity as it relates to reducing, improving our brain health, managing stress and anxiety and depression? Because again, I'm not sleeping. I don't know why. I mean, I know I have anxiety sometimes.
Yeah.
But how does working out, I guess, help our brain health? Since you say I'm over here, step myself up Alzheimer's and dementia and all that.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing about it is, of course, it's a stimulus for different hormones. So like we mentioned dopamine and endorphins and things of the sort. When you think about movement physically, and then you think about, I guess we could say movement cognitively, there's a principle that people may have heard. If you don't use it, you lose it. You know what I mean? And then also the other part about that is in relation to, like you're saying, with restoration and sleep, is the growth that you make outside the gym is externally larger than the growth that you make inside the gym.
Ooh, tell me more.
Yeah. So it's like, the growth part, you know what I mean? Or the enhancement is happening outside the gym. I tell people that all the time, like the 23 hours that you spend outside of seeing me is way more important than the hour that you see me. This is just the stimulus. This is the catalyst to stack all those other things up in your favor. So it's just kind of like, recovery is a big part of that. Like restoration, like what you do, you could have a killer workout, but if you don't go to sleep, it don't count for nothing. You're just running out your adrenal glands, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, that is high key important, you know what I mean? When it comes to the larger goal or the larger picture of overall health is how you live your life outside the gym. You know what I'm saying? It's going to determine the effects of what you've done in the gym. You know what I mean? And when you get specific to brain health, again, you know, cognition is something that you're definitely exercising as well throughout a workout. You know what I mean? Whether you counting your repetitions, whether you're still going through the basis of just logistically using your motor skills. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, like I said, you bring in the biochemistry with the release of certain hormones. You know what I mean? And so these are pathways, basically, that you need to be using functionally every day. And so that's the crazy thing. So, I mean, if you wanted me to be honest, right?
Yes.
And it's just a phrase that people say when they're setting up to say something.
Probably just some bullshit, but anyway, nevertheless, I know you know.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but like, look, that's crazy. But the idea of gym is really some luxury.
You think so?
100%.
Why?
Because it's just like you get this space that you could come in, you got these machines and these equipments where you could mimic functional movements that you technically, if our lives wasn't set up to be so sedentary, we would be doing anyway with more of a purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that we can set aside an hour plus and can afford that time to be like, yo, let me go to this condensed space that has equipment where I can mimic movements that I otherwise would not be doing in life. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of crazy, but it's a luxury that we're afforded. You know what I mean? Like if you, and I hate to really kind of take it this far, but you know, thousands of years ago, there's no need to work out because you was doing so much. Not even thousands, hundreds.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And for certain demographic, a lot of hundreds. You know, we could take ourselves back 100 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And our energy expenditure was all the way through the roof. You know what I mean? Because of how hard we had to work, or you know, enslavement and things of the sort. So you know, it's really a luxury idea to be like, I'm going to work out. You know what I'm saying? Think about that in the context of you know, humanity in general. You know what I mean? Work out. You know what I mean? Think about that.
I'm over you.
I'm a work out.
I mean, yeah, why not?
You know what I mean? Hey, I'm not trying to be funny. I don't know how much humor you put on your show, but could you imagine getting in a time machine, going back 300 years, getting to your ancestors? All right, guys, let's work out. Like, what are you talking about? We worked out, sir. What are you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a luxury, man. It's something that we afforded in our society. So,
I mean, I think we underestimate the importance, as you say, of working out. I don't really like the term working out either. I prefer to be more, physical.
Yeah.
Or some sort of physical activity.
Yeah.
The smallest things. But again, as you say, for me, I don't think I'm sleeping well enough even after a workout besides last night. So again, why is that important? Like, how is working out?
So here's the thing, right? And I'm going to go back into the what I introduced, like in terms of the time that you spend out the gym being so crucial and critical, if not more than the time you spend in the gym. The same way you come into the gym and you say, I'm going to do 4 sets of this for that many number of reps, and I'm going to take this exact rest period, and we're going to go on to the next exercise. You need to be just as intentional about sleep, right? Like right now, if you came in here to work out and I had a pit bull, you know what I mean, in here, and he's barking and he's, you know what I mean, he ain't trained and he biting and shit, could you work out?
No. Me?
You know what I'm saying? No, most people couldn't. I mean, I don't know nobody that would be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? But at the same, because you in a high anxious state to where you in a fight or flight response, you're like, is the dog about to bite me? You know what I'm saying? Is he trained? And then he's snapping, and then comes to find out he will actually bite me. Like, this is crazy. I can't work out. It's the same way sometimes in people's in their relations and their intentionality to go to sleep. You have to look at it, and I need to create a safe space.
Okay, I like that.
Right? And I need to be intentional about what I'm trying to do with sleep. And I need to look at it in the same likeness that I say I'm going to run for 2.5 miles or for 30 minutes, and I'm going to set up this playlist. I'm going to get my sneakers. I'm going to run in a space where I feel safe, and I'm not going to trip up or whatever. Like, you need to take the same level of thought into going to sleep and recovery and realizing the importance of it. Like, if I was to be a sleep coach and be like, all right, we're going to do 7 sets of 1 hour, going to sleep, starting at, 9 o'clock, phone off, TV off, the room need to be this, whether because, a lot of sensory input also goes into you making that transition to sleep. Yeah. So here's a little bit more I can tell you guys about myself, because this is I bring a lot of thought into what I do. So when I said earlier, oh, it's a modality, that's not no BS. It ain't no bullshit. It's like I've done a lot of experimentation in my life. So one of the things I did when I was like 13, 14, a lot of you not, I took the TV out my room.
What?
I went to, I got my mom to take me to Walmart, and I had got like these, I can't think of the term that you use for them, but basically anti-light blinds. I mean, so when
like blackout curtains,
not blackout curtains, like the blinds themselves will not let no light in.
I mean, that
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, and my comforter, my bed sheets, I got them, a dark navy.
Child.
You know what I'm saying? So basically, if I cut the light out in my room, it was pitch black. But I did that because I'm a reader, and I read that your room, your space, right? Because you are in it, think about how often you're in your room. You know what I mean? When you're going to sleep or whatever you're doing, like it's important for your body to biologically interpret that you're making the transition to rest. Most people have so much stimulating shit in their room, and the TV is 60 inches. You know what I'm saying? And you got all these photos up, and and all due respect to humidifiers, because that can be another sensory input that helps with restoration. But you got this the licorice scented candle, like it's you know what I mean? Like, yo, you ain't nobody going to sleep in here. You know what I'm saying? You expect for your body just to cut all that shit off? Help yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? That's what I mean when I was making the metaphorical, thing about the pit bull being in the gym, and you got to do the same. You got to be just as intentional with creating that safe space to get your body to biologically interpret. Every time I come into my room, like, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to rest. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you work on that habitually. Sensory input is something that people, man, if you really understood, creating those habits and those environments and the things you do day to day, you know what I mean, that really have a very large, astounding effect on you.
I mean, I get that, because for me, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to go to bed. I'll take a nice long shower, do all my little skincare and all this body cream, everything you can think of. And then when I get into bed, I'm doing something else on my phone. Like I'm either responding to an email, sending an email, or I'm typing in my notes, what I'm going to do tomorrow. And then before you know it, it's like 1 a.m.
Yeah. But
I'm thinking that I'm setting myself up. Like I'm taking a nice, long, very hot shower. I'm one of those people.
No, because
I'm doing all these things to make sure I can be relaxed. But then the minute I get into bed, I'm either reading on my Kindle or I'm on the phone doing something, thinking about the next day and the next day and the next day. So then before you know it, it's like 3 a.m., 3 a.m. and then I got to be up in 2 hours because I'm an early riser.
Yeah. That's even more reason why you need to. I don't like this catchphrase words are going around now, but I ain't minimizing the idea of the word. I get it, but you need to set boundaries.
Hey.
You know what I mean? On yourself.
Ooh. Okay, so you're going to come in here and kind of drag me in on my own podcast talking about boundaries for myself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us more. How can we create boundaries as it relates to
exactly what I'm saying?
Working out,
regulating everything around you, regulating it. You know what I mean? Setting boundaries on yourself. Like, people is crazy, and I'm yeah, I mean, because you know me. So, but people, like, it's crazy. You know what? Bump it. We'll go here. You know what I mean? Since it's tea, it's crazy to me. You know what I mean? How motivated people can be depending on what their intentionality is. Like, we could be so scrambled to say, I don't know how to apply myself or in a certain way in my life to get this expected, outcome that I want as it may pertain to sleep or how I want to look or whatever, right? And they can read all the books and talk to all the coaches and trainers they want to. But if the boyfriend breaks up with them, now they ready. You know what I'm saying? Now we geared up to go work out. We doing getting everything together. It's
I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm gonna stop you.
It's like, yo, what? Or when you start talking to people about boundaries, and then the boyfriend does something or the toxic egg come up. Oh, I know exactly how to set boundaries. Then it's like, yo, that's crazy. So incorporate the same thing into your life intentionally on yourself as it pertains to something that you desire to enhance or better or change about yourself. You know what I mean? Without it having to take some outside stimulus on a T level. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is like, romantic, relational BS. Like, it's just crazy to me. And to take it a step deeper, since I done opened the can of worms when it comes to that subject per se, It's just crazy because oftentimes the boyfriend probably was saying the whole time, yo, you should work out. Let's go work out. And then when they break up, then she's so motivated or he's so motivated to go to the gym. It's just crazy.
Or, you know,
like
this is, I'm probably telling my business a little bit, but I'm like, when I first reached out to you back in January, I'm like, you know what, let me go on this, having my own personal trainer. One of the reasons was because if I had to get up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym, it wasn't going to happen, especially when the weather was cold. If I had to go to the gym after work when it's like dark at 4, I'm going to go home and go into bed, right? Or I'm going to pretend to do some workout on YouTube where I'm not even doing it with as much intensity as I should. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, if I get a trainer, I know I have to show up for the trainer or to the trainer. It wasn't more like, oh, you know, it's me. It's more of, you know, I don't want to disappoint said trainer because I don't want to waste their time. Of course. But then also my intention behind working out as well was I was going through a little challenging time. From a relationship standpoint. And I was like, okay, no, let me go get this body together because, you know, this body already looking decent enough. Let me go get this body so it can be the Kelly Rowland or the Beyonce type or the Tiana Taylor type body, right? So that this said person can be like, oh, I let this one go. I'm like, but then again, I'm like, girl, really? For all about your physical being, like your mental or emotional or whatever. But as I started getting to know you, and we be having these deep conversations because, guys, when the first day I walked into this gym, he was like, oh, yeah, what's up, T? I'm like, oh, first of all, you don't even know me. Why are you calling me T? You ain't even close to me. You're not even family. Why are you saying what up, T? You know? Yeah. But nevertheless, we started having these deep conversations and I'm like, okay, my workout is not because I'm trying to prove something to somebody. It's more so about my emotional and my mental well-being because, again, I was hurt. My heart was broken, still broken, but, you know, working through that and just realizing that I actually look forward to that 1 hour a day with you because not only am I obviously getting my body together, but that mental or emotional, like I leave the gym every time being grateful for the fact that, you know what, you are as intelligent as you are. So here I go gassing up on my own podcast, but whatever. You are as intelligent, but it's not about, oh yeah, let's do 4 reps of this. Yeah. Whatever exercise we're going to do. It's more so about how are you feeling today? Like where are you mentally, where are you emotionally? How can we ensure that this workout is going to benefit you, not just from a physical standpoint, but, you know, emotional and mental well-being. So, and you mentioned earlier about self-esteem and confidence. And I think for me, again, I grew up playing sports. So I knew I had the nice legs. I knew I was just this, you know, Shelly and Fraser Price and a Jamaican sprinter. I had her body, you know. But realizing that in recent times, I'm like, okay, you know what? You're getting a few pounds because, you know, we're getting older. Yeah. And then realizing that, okay, I can see something that I can do with this body. But now, whenever I leave the gym, I have a walk. Like, you know, Megan Thee Stallion, she's like, you know, she got this on. Yeah. I forgot the name of her song, but she said, "Oh, she got this, whatever." Yeah, I'm
walk. Familiar with Megan Thee Stallion.
And I know what walk she's talking about. So for me, no, when I leave the gym, you can't tell me I'm not on the runway. Like you can't tell me I'm not a model or I don't have I have some level of confidence now. Yeah. So tell me or tell us how, like, what's the science behind when you work out and you have the intention behind your workout that it gives you that boost of confidence? Like,
so that's, you know, I was kind of touching on a little bit earlier, you know, with the you don't use it, you lose it. You know, it is a stimulating thing on every level. You know what I'm saying? On the level in terms of like I'm using my muscles and my cardiovascular system is working. You know what I mean? My nerve endings is firing, you know, but also my neurons as I'm learning, you know what I mean? And as I'm learning in terms of movement, I'm learning in terms of esteem and what I can accomplish and what I can do. I'm learning in terms of my body, but also if you have a trainer like me, you're learning in terms of, you know, life and your position in life. And it's a great time. The only other time, you know, and I say this with a small one myself, the level of growth, right, that you have in the first 2 years of life is so astounding. Like your brain is just multiplying itself every second. Right? While at the same time you're discovering I got a foot and toes and hands and, you know, the gym is a space in life where you can replicate that. You know what I mean? It's not going to be on the same level, but you can fire off neurons and nerves, muscles, heart, thoughts, emotions, all at the same time. That's exactly goes back to what I mean about sensory input. So it's just kind of like, you know, and you can have things inputted and you can also have things outputted. It's the same way as in when you inhale and exhale. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, you know, the confidence really, if you want me to be honest, it's something that I don't think it's something that the gym puts in you. It allows you to feel yourself on every level. So when you leave, you're feeling yourself Although you may not feel like yourself because you're exhausted or you tired, whatever, you are feeling yourself. You ever took a yoga class?
I have, but I mean, I struggle.
It ain't about like you ever.
I didn't understand that. It was from like a mindset or mental space. I was like, you know what? I'm not that flexible. Let me quit. So I went one time and I went back.
All right.
I'll be honest.
But so I've taken a few, and one of my favorite parts about it is the end. When you lay down, I've been to a couple and they would put like a cold cloth on top of your forehead. You know what I mean? And when you leave that place, man, you hear it all the time. People say, I feel so limber. And it's because your body awareness, your self-awareness has increased because it's been challenged. You've summoned that part of yourself. So
interesting.
There's something I want to say philosophically, but I don't think we had the time for me to fill it out all the way. It. But it's just like the confidence that people feel like is being important to them is always there. It's always been there. You just haven't been aware of yourself, or we put so much on ourselves, so many layers, so many coping mechanisms or defenses that oftentimes we never really get to the core of how we feel and who we are. You know what I mean? But that's always there. You know what I mean? It's just about being able to see yourself, feel yourself, and the trajectory, regardless of what you felt like when you came through the door, when you leave, is that I'm improving.
I like that. Say that part again. I like it.
I mean,
say it again.
Oh my gosh.
You don't forget?
No, but the trajectory, right? Regardless of how you are when you arrive, when you leave, is that you are improving. So it's just kind of like, that in itself is a part of that confidence that we talk about, or esteem that we talk about. Like, one of the things, I like to tell people all the time, depending on what they talk about, like, let's say hair. You'll have male or female that say, I want to grow my hair out, but then I got to go through the ugly stage. You're pretty sure you heard that before.
Of course.
Right? Or I got to, or I decided I want to grow my hair out, but now I'm looking at photos of some guy that got like 30-inch, locks. And so it eats away at, because I'm not there. But it's like, if you just think about it in the terms of like every day your hair is longer than it was the day before.
Okay. I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you take that perspective, you know what I mean, and apply it to anything in your life, really, it's an esteem booster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I could have came into the gym today a hot ass broken down mess. But when I left, I felt like I've done something to better myself, basically.
It's funny you said that, because that's what I always say at the beginning of each episode. I hope you would have done something for yourself at least once in the week, because we don't give ourselves credit enough for that, myself included. I'm like, okay, on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one, but then not realizing that me even showing up to even work out with you, like, I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
And I just realized that recently, because I don't want to go, I'm complaining, but then now I'm at the point where I actually look forward to working out, because I know what it's going to do for me during and then after. So that's one of the things that I like. But before we go, as we're wrapping up, I want to talk about community, because I think that's when you and I bonded the first time, because I have a nonprofit, you have a nonprofit, and we're all about our community, especially you as a Black man in this country as well. So tell us how the social aspects of exercise, and how can it foster connections and community as well, because I think that's a big thing for me. I feel like you're part of my community. When we talk about, I have another episode that we're going to be talking about community and the importance of building your village. We often hear about, when you get pregnant, you need a village, which is going to be your parents or whatever. But I'm realizing now that our village doesn't have to be our immediate family. You get to build, you get to create what your village, or who is part of your village as well. So what are the social aspects of exercise, and how can it foster community and connections?
So like,
because I think we underestimate that.
Community to me, man, I'm all about that, so when you bring that word up, it's like, hey, you should have brought that up. That should have been the first question. You know what I'm saying? So it's so many ways to kind of tackle what you just talked about, especially as it pertains to fitness. We can go with the most surface, man. I have a fit family, and family is the way that I approach fitness to a certain extent.
Right.
Because it's a relationship, and you have relationships, basically. You know what I'm saying? But I think to take it a bit further than that, I've seen it have drastic effects on people, in group classes, or I have clients that never really work out together, but as they're passing each other session to session, it creates a sense of community. It's like, all right, he killed me today. I hope you're ready. You know what I'm saying? Just simple little comments like that foster a sense of community. It fosters a sense of belongingness. It fosters a sense of family. and plenty of people share this where, you may not be in the same city or state as somebody, but y'all keep up with each other's, people wear Apple Watches and they do like the little thing where the circle closes. It's creating the fostering sense of community, a relationship essentially. So to me, that's kind of like the surface aspect of that. But as we talked about, like, nonprofits and things of the sort, the not so surface level of that is I feel like, when you learn certain things, right? And people could say this on so many levels, but when you start working out and you get the benefit of working out, whether it's in how you look or how you feel or, the results you get from your yearly checkup or whatever, it's like you start to want to share that with other people. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Now that could become an issue for a lot of people that don't know how to communicate healthily or, whatever, but like you want to share that with people. You know what I'm saying? I've experienced that so much in my career, you know what I mean? To where it's like, a lot of, the clientele that I have is through word of mouth, you know what I mean? To where it's like, I feel so good about what we do here, what I've been able to accomplish here that it's all I could talk about. Or, when somebody asks me what's going on in my life, I'm like, well, I got a trainer. I'm working out. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, but you hear that and like, oh, okay. But it's like, nah, when they saying that, like, that's a big, do you understand how much of contribution that's been to my life? And they share that sense and it just broadens the sense of community. To me, though, it's the pathway that I want to utilize to do larger things in the community. Right. And so like, if I didn't make it kind of clear earlier, I'm in this transitionary state to where I'm enhancing the idea of me being a trainer and creating my own modality because I feel like I'm a lot more than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't really like to condense myself to that word, really. You know what I mean? I know you saying what you're saying, present it, but like I'm not a trainer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm able to use this as my platform, basically, to launch into things I want to do, larger in the community. But it's also a relatable ground. It's a relatable base. It's the way that I can introduce a concept or conversation or self-awareness to somebody and have an immediate effect on them in their life. You know what I mean? And that's the pathway or the gateway into doing a larger evaluation on the quality of life, on their ideas, or their ideologies and their practices and their behaviorism and the way that they think and, and just broaden that from an individual to a communal level. So I'm not just here to go on the news and tell people they need an apple a day. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but once I get on the news and I tell people they need an apple a day and I become the apple guy, I plan on taking them somewhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I like that answer because I think it sums up, how you can thrive by embracing exercise. That's why I'm like, okay, I'm thriving. I don't like you some days because you try to kill me unintentionally. So as we get ready to wrap up, I want to ask you, how does consistent physical activity contribute to building resilience and coping skills, especially as it relates to the challenges that we face in life? I mean, I know you can't answer that question early, but,
So you know me, I'm a broad thinker, right? And I'm pretty sure that's probably come across in this episode to people that's listening. The first thing that my spirit is moved to speak on when I hear that question is that it's not the end all be all. You know what I mean? Oftentimes, if you listen with a keen ear to the answer that I gave about myself, right? To me, I coped through working out, right? That's why it was so hard for somebody to come to me and be like, let me work out with you. Because I've created this world in my head.
It's all about you.
You know what I mean? To where I needed to be away, but and put my, like, if I'm working out, if I'm tired, if I'm exasperated, I could essentially be pushing off my emotions. You know what I mean? And that showed up in my life a lot. You know what I mean? Oftentimes, very recently through things I've been through. Man, people probably not going to believe me when I say this. You know what I mean?
Let's see.
There was a period in my life, probably let's say for 5 years, I may have missed the gym a total of 10 days.
I thought he was going to say 1, but okay.
Maybe it might be 1. I'm just...
just 10 days? That's still a little.
But
Child,
I really kind of inflated that number because I don't, you know what I mean? I can't say it's 1, but it might be closer to 1 than 10.
Child.
But I'm talking about like, because I started to lapse back into that coping mechanism. So saying that to say, and I'm not saying that to punch down on fitness. Like when we talk about building resilience, and coping, it's like, I just wanted to point out the measure of that is that, it's just like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people heard in life, a good thing is not always a good thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to push people on that subject to face what they feel like they need to build a resilience for. Don't lean on anything. Face it. And that's a part of my responsibility. And when we have those higher level conversations about things, I'm not the trainer that's, just going to let you lean on working out as a crutch if you share that space with me. You know what I mean? So it's something nice to, like you said, it's a catalyst. Working out is a catalyst to me making a change in my life, but don't let it don't substitute it for a confrontation with whatever you're dealing with.
I like that. Well, on that note, we're at the end of our episode. But before you go, can you tell us one mantra or affirmation that you rely on in this season of your life?
One affirmation?
Or mantra, yeah. Because to me, it's going to always be nothing happens before it's time. That's always going to be my life's mantra because, again, I do a lot and I'm always trying to rush to the next thing. I don't sit in the present. I don't sit and acknowledge whatever accomplished or whatnot. So, and then even if I were to fail at something, I become like overly depressed or sad because, in my opinion, it should have happened at that point in time.
Yeah.
But my life mantra is, nothing happens before it's time, and then perseverance is key.
So mantras, mantras and affirmations.
Here you go.
No, I'm not going to knock the concept because I do. It's just like what we were having a conversation about clothes earlier. I don't even know if we recorded that, but like they find me. I lie to you not, right?
Here we go.
I'll tell you this on record. First of all, I'm mad at my answer a little bit low key, but I got an answer from the heart. My mantra is actually a prayer at this point.
Oh, good. Tell us.
You know what I mean? But it's not, a psalm or anything, but it's a prayer, and plenty of people are familiar with it when it says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I lie to you not. My therapist brought that up to me in the same season. Read it in the book, right? Went to classes that I had to take. And the instructor
said the
same thing, right?
You guys should see how I'm looking at him right now. Like, really?
Yeah. I've seen it on several, like, it's just been something that has been brought to the focus of my consciousness.
Okay. I like
almost sequentially in my life in the same season and almost instantaneously at the same time. So it's
that's a message.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? So that's basically my mantra. That's basically my affirmation right now is, accepting the things I cannot change, having that encouragement to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference between the two. You know what I mean? And it's like with me, you know what I mean? I like to put affirmations ahead. So I'm speaking that on my life, you know what I mean? As I go through my season, as I'm out of my season, like I'm speaking it on myself. You know what I mean? But that's just the most recent, you know what I mean? I would have to say. I remember another mantra I had through another season of my life. It's crazy having this conversation, just thinking about it, that it basically was saying that after difficulty comes ease.
Ooh, I like that one. Say it again.
After difficulty comes ease. And I remember I was going through a very challenging
I'm going to need to adapt that one. Yeah. After the difficulty comes ease.
Yeah.
I like that. Well,
and so they're very important to have mantras and affirmations because, your first language is to yourself.
Yeah. And I think that, when we talk about mantras and affirmation, it's like it becomes so cliche. Oh, let me just say an affirmation so I can be, so you got to always be intentional with what you're speaking over your life. Because for me, life and death is always in the power of the tongue. I'm a church girl. They don't bring that scripture up. But I believe in the power of speaking positivity over your life. And that's always a lesson that I got to learn every single day.
But while you're in your church, girl, you know what I mean? Faith without works is dead, though.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, so,
okay, church boy.
Yeah, nah, see, that's why when you asked me that question, I was like, I got to really tell her my mantra affirmation, and people going to get a scope of this now and be like, oh, what church you go to, whatever. But you know me.
I mean, we're going to come out to our core anyway. At any point, we're going to come out to your core.
You know me. You know me. I mean, but you know my core too. You know what I'm saying? That ain't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not the, I know scripture, you know what I'm saying, deeply, but,
You are who you are.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll accept that. Well, Mr.
Yeah.
Joshua, thank you for coming on the Tea with Tanya podcast. It's been a long time coming, kinda. And I want to thank you for taking out time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
To join me here in the tea tasting room. It was a very fun conversation. So hopefully my tea tasters, as we call them, my friends, they're going to enjoy our episode.
Okay.
Any parting words?
Not really, man. I feel like, thank you for
Let me just put this disclaimer out here. This is how our sessions in the week usually is. That we'll be working out and he'll be running his mouth.
Yeah.
Providing and teaching wisdom and back and forth and vice versa. So I think that he would have been a good guest to be on this Thrive and Embrace and Exercise. So we're not just talking about working out physically, there's some mental and emotional well-being, and yeah. Mm-hmm. Glad to have had you here.
I appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Tea with Tanya. If you like this episode, be sure to share it with a friend. Don't forget to follow on Instagram at Tea with Tanya Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the weekly Tea Talk newsletter. And of course, rate on Apple or Spotify and subscribe wherever you listen. See you next time. I love you for listening.